Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and what the hell that even means. I'm Kate, and joining me this evening is Ryan. How you going, mate?
Yeah, good. No material change. No material change going to be happening for a while over here in the UK. We continue our house imprisonment at least until the 8th of March, likely longer. So I've lost count even what day we're up to, but I think by the end of this saga we'll definitely be raising the bat for the second time. But yeah, other than that, doing relatively okay. Got coffee this morning, so that's an essential tick, and that's a highlight. And
you got snow this week.
I got snow last Sunday. Yes, that was literally the highlight of the month. We were on a call with some friends back in Oz, and then behind in the window it started snowing, and luckily we'd been on the call for over an hour or whatnot, so we wrapped that up pretty quickly, and then went and walked out in the snow for a good hour. Saw some little ones making some snowmen, even got to throw a snowball. It was nice. It was very nice, not gonna lie.
I did see that. I saw the photos. It looked amazing. Actually having it, behind you in real life, like at home, would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. We were hopeful for that for Christmas, but that's all right. Came a month after. It was the first time I've ever been in a city or living somewhere and then been like, oh, it is snowing.
Well, you did spend a lot of your life in Australia in Perth. Not much snow there, but a lockdown.
Yeah, they've got a 5-day lockdown coming. The old Perth. I'll jump on some calls after this with the family, but it's probably going to be a bit of stop carrying on like pork chops to them, because in a couple of the messages I've seen, I'm just like, a little bit of perspective, guys. It's all it's all okay. You've avoided the global crisis for 13 months. You'll be all right with 5 days.
They'll learn about essential and non-essential items, and I think a lot of the non-essential items have been stripped already from the shopping centres and the Coles and the Woolworths of the world over in Perth. So
yeah, I'm sure they'll make 5 days work, but hey, people do they do go a little bit crazy with what's essential, what's non-essential.
Which is what we're going to talk about tonight: essential and non-essential things. I think if 2020 has taught us anything, it is maybe what we thought were essential things in life maybe weren't that essential after all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I certainly did in 2020, got a lot more focused, more clarity maybe on what a genuine needs and what a genuine wants, / still going through that with what we've got here. But I think a lot of people realize that they need a lot less than what they had, but they probably want a lot more than what we currently have, because one of the things about non-essentials is like, I mean, I'd give anything to actually go and have this takeaway coffee in a cafe right now. But I think it brought a lot of people perspective. I mean, whether that stays or not, time will tell, but it's certainly a good reset to think about actually what is essential to me in my life, and what do I want to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's really important as well, because be it work, be it home-based stuff, be it anything in life, working out what's essential and urgent versus non-essential and non-urgent is that sort of typical quadrant where you kind of go urgent, non-urgent, essential, non-essential, and things which are urgent and essential need to be done ASAP, where things which are in that complete opposite quadrant, non-urgent, non-essential, they can sit there forever.
Yeah, and we get a lot of anxiety, I think, from that quadrant, because we blow it out a little bit. Whereas I think 2020 slash, for many of us that are still going through it in 2021, there's a acknowledgement or recalibration going on about that quadrant doesn't matter, that non-urgent and non-essential, and it's like kind of doesn't matter. What's hard though is to stay like and really be like, how do you really clarify and go, what is essential? Because your essential might be different to somebody else's essential, and it's really hard to, and probably at different times in your life as well. So how do you sort of keep yourself, I suppose, in check and going, am I blowing, or for better of a word, carrying on like a pork chop, which I actually said over here in the UK about somebody at work, and I got like, nobody knew what I was talking about, so I had to explain. They were like, that's one of your Australianisms. I was like, okay, yep. But for those who don't know, it's basically making a mountain out of a molehill. It's like blowing something out of proportion.
See, if you said that in Australia, that we don't have molehills in Australia, so I'd be like, what is a molehill? But I know the saying.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of, maybe a question like, what did you learn through your experience last year or even this year that is actually true essentials to you? And then what are some things that you went, probably not overly essential?
Well, only essential things to me haven't really changed that much probably in the last 10 or 15 years. It's just, somewhere to sleep and something to eat. That's really it. Running water. That's it. There's three things: running water, something to eat, somewhere to sleep. That's really it. Everything else is a bonus. I've had times in my life where I've slept in my office, like because I had nowhere else to go, so I didn't really have somewhere to sleep. I didn't really have that much to eat at that point of time either. I had plenty of running water, but like I think when you go through different things, maybe, and it might be the pandemic, it might be other stuff. You kind of can see what the real priorities and what your real I guess needs are, as opposed to like the wants, because everyone's got like a million wants, which is fair enough, but you just need to understand your difference between your needs and your wants.
Yeah, so a friend last week, and he's like, he's changed forever because of the pandemic, to the point of an essential now for him. So he's got a young family, right? So 2-year-old and a 6-month roughly. Is an essential now for him is the ability to work from home a couple of days a week, because as he's realized, he's like, family is essential to him, and going to an office 5 days a week and spending 30 minutes, 6 till 6:30 with the kids having dinner before they go to bed type situation is actually, and we're saying like he will actively now, if needed, to change jobs, career, those kind of situations to allow for that ability. And
that's
I think
awesome.
one of the things
like it's great that that going through, I guess, what we've gone through, that has allowed him to find that, because a lot of people never kind of find something like that. I'm probably a little bit flippant on stuff like that because I guess I've done that for the last 5 years. So I kind of maybe take that for granted. I maybe shouldn't.
For me, that one thing that became really clear in 2020 was family security, in terms of what is essential, in terms of how do we look after and make sure that, like you said, those needs are definitely going to be met: roof overhead, food, all those kind of things. But also just a little bit of like going through it here. I mean, we're getting down to a point of what's essential in terms of like, we don't even have a TV over here, because you can just stream everything off a laptop. But sort of getting down to a point of actually realizing, I mean, besides my beloved AeroPress, which is essential for good coffee, the NutriBullet, which is essential to make green healthy juices to not get COVID, and a good pair of running shoes, there's not a great deal, to the point of this almost be packaged up to live with just the essentials to be able to move around Europe and potentially work anywhere if possible.
Yeah, because you're a massive advocate of the minimalist movement, aren't you?
Yep. Big
So
fan of less is more.
So for people out there who may not understand what the minimalist movement is, can you just give a little bit of an explainer? Like, there's a couple of great documentaries on Netflix. The one which just came out in the last couple of weeks as well, which was a follow-up to the original. Both are great. Can you just give a little bit of rundown on what that means to you?
Yeah, I think it's about, so I'm a big fan of it for two reasons. One, it's simplicity of clarity in terms of you have less shit, so you're basically not owned by your stuff. Now that doesn't say that that stuff needs to be poor or anything like that, because you can have really high quality stuff, but it's just you've got less stuff, so you've got more space. The more stuff that you end up having, you run a psychological risk of being owned by your stuff or an extension of your stuff. The other thing is it's phenomenally good for the environment. I mean, David Attenborough got asked one question: what is one thing that everyone can do to help global warming? And his answer was consume less. So it's not about depriving yourself or anything. It's just about consuming less. And yeah, it's about. I mean, for me, this is all for me, but it's really about what we're talking about here. I'm going, what are the essentials now? I mean, you're fantastic because you take it down to a Maslow need where you're like, I've got roof, water, and food. I'm a little bit more precious than that, where I'm like, I need some good clothes. I need access to good coffee. When I'm not during dry January, good food and wine, those kind of things. But it's around this thing of like keeping what is essential into perspective of how you live, and then focusing on investing in experiences rather than things ultimately.
Yeah, I subscribe to that theory as well. I think it's a really important. It's a really important thing for people to think about. They don't necessarily have to adopt it all, but just to take little bits and pieces from it if that improves, I guess, your relationship with the world and the relationship with the stuff that you have that you actually like. Because it's okay to have stuff, like you said, as long as you're not owned by it or kind of a slave to more and more.
It's essentially just quality over quantity. So just making sure that everything that you have is not just stuff in storage, it's stuff that you actually enjoy. And I think what we're talking about essentials and non-essentials in the scope of one of the big positives that I think's come out of this whole episode is so many people, I don't know if it was the same back in Oz, but over here we're doing massive spring cleans and selling furniture and getting rid of stuff, and kind of realizing, I suppose, because they were stuck in their homes, going, actually, why do I have all this shit? Why do I have so many pairs of clothes, especially now that we're all just hanging around in pajamas or athleisure wear? And that, that's one of those things of actually getting a bit of that perspective of going, what is essential? And one of the benefits, I think, of that, the gift that the whole situation's given us is to really work out what is essential to us, and just focus on maximizing and enjoying that. Now, something for me is travel, right? And I travel, or I used to travel a lot, and I certainly didn't travel cheap or anything like that. So there's none of this concept around depriving yourself. But I've realized with the whole pandemic thing, I'm like, that is really essential to me, like those experiences, meeting people, all those kind of things. And how can I make that essential piece become more a part of whatever I do moving forward, whenever the world allows for it, obviously, whenever the world allows for it. For other people, travel might not be essential whatsoever. For other people, it might be, a good sports room in their house to play some pool and watch footy and all those kind of things, and have a good bar. But I don't think a lot of people ask themselves what's essential, what's not essential. And I don't think people ask themselves, am I doing this because I actually want to, or am I just doing it because
it's expectation.
I think I should.
Yeah, it's expectation.
Yeah. Or I think a favorite thing of you and I is the whole buying shit you don't need to impress people you don't even like.
Correct.
And when you strip it down to what's essential and what's not essential, it becomes really easy to not do that. And to just enjoy, but also more importantly, there's a lot of people that I think found out that there's some essential things in the whole pandemic, or they're finding out now that there's some essential things that they don't have in their life, and that they can then, make changes to get, I suppose.
Well, I think that's if there is, there's no benefit to what's happened in the last 12 months, and it feels like it is almost 12 months to almost the day since it kind of all kicked off here. If there's one benefit, it's probably the time that people have had to spend by themselves thinking, and be able to maybe think about stuff like this and think about what is essential and what's important to them, and then hopefully being able to adapt and change to bring what is essential and important into their lives, and make changes. Like you talked about your mate before, who, before the pandemic, that probably wasn't on his radar to work a couple of days from home a week. And, he's managed to get a taste of that. And he's worked out that's really important to him. He would never probably have realized that if the pandemic hadn't have happened.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not to say that that's the only right thing. For other people, what might be essential is actually that, they're married to their work, and there's nothing wrong with that. And they might go the other way and just be like, one thing that I found that's essential to me, that this thing's become really clear, is actually people. I'm severely missing interacting with people. Now, I know a lot of other people are like, this is great. Don't have to go to an office, don't have to go to events, don't have to make small talk, all that. And I'm like, no, that's essential. Like I go nuts without that shit. So just those insights, I think, when this thing finishes and whatnot, for me, it's going to be even more of that. Go to events, go to things, go to experiences, meet with people. But for other people, they might have found out, actually, I really don't need to do that. And I don't like traveling for work, and I don't like doing all these things. And it's now not essential, because I can jump on a video call and I can just chat with people, and I can work from home, and I can do all these things. So there's a real opportunity, I guess, that we've got around just stripping back to, what is essential. And I think there's a good opportunity in that, community is pretty essential, and we've probably lost a bit of that in the last, with the online world and all those kind of bits and pieces. You could argue, based on what's happened with the game stock, that actually we've gained a lot of community power, which is definitely one of those things. But for a lot of people, I think, as they went more local, they realized that actually, what is essential is things like our small business sector surviving. So how do we look after those in our community, and those kind of things. And this experience has definitely shown that I suppose what is essential, and how we can help in those ways.
No, I agree with you there, mate. I think it's a pretty good place to wrap up this week, so we can go and do some things which are essential to us. You get out somewhere and go for a walk, or call to Perth and bathe in the misery of Perth being locked down for 5 days. Remember to subscribe to Daddy It's Last on iTunes. If you haven't already, and while you're there, please leave a review. Also, tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they're in Perth the next 5 days, because they've got nothing else to do. Leave a review while you're there. And most of all, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week, Perth.
Bye bye. Bye bye.